Hello again, precious friends. Welcome back to the Carnivore Hippie. You know, living in an inappropriate environment, we just can't rely on our instincts. In a wild, food scarce environment, if something's palatable, it's probably good for you. And we can infer that this was the case in pre-agricultural times because almost all human beings have a preference for carby, sweet types of foods. Energy dense type of food. That means that if there ever were any human groups that didn't have a preference for this kind of food, they've pretty much all died out. And this in itself shows that preference for those types of foods is likely a survival benefit, meaning basically, in other words, humans who did prefer those types of foods and did take advantage of them ended up reproducing more than those human beings who didn't. And human bodies appear to be adapted to get fat on carby food. So if fatness is so bad for us, why would almost all surviving human groups fatten on carby food? Well, one theory that I find very convincing is that almost all surviving human groups that evolved in a non-tropical climate would find the vast majority of carby foods occurring wild in the late summer and early fall, just in time to put on body fat for the cold, food scarce months. So obviously those who are fat going into the wintertime are going to be better equipped to survive than those who are leaner. It's been a pretty well observed phenomenon that human groups who are adapted to living in non-tropical environments have more of a tendency to put on subcutaneous body fat, which is less dangerous health-wise, and human groups who are evolved or adapted from tropical climates tend to put on visceral fat, which tends to be more risky health-wise. The difference could be accounted for by the availability of fruit and starchy foods. In the tropics, some sort of fruit's usually available all year round, and on top of that, many tropical fruits are starchy rather than sugary, like subtropical and temperate and subarctic climate fruits tend to be sugary, and they tend to only ripen within and be available within a very, very short window of time in the year, usually between 6 and 12 weeks. Now, human groups who had access to carby foods year-round, along with the fact that they lived in hot, humid climates, just never developed the necessity to put on a lot of subcutaneous fat. Plus the fact that having a lot of subcutaneous fat is obviously a detriment in a hot, humid environment where the imperative is to adapt to staying cool rather than adapt to staying warm. Meanwhile, in colder areas, the ability to put on a lot of subcutaneous fat right before the cold season had obvious survival benefits. People who went into the winter fatter could go longer periods without food. They could stay warmer without clothing, and their immune systems were stronger. But by the time the warmer weather came around, most of that subcutaneous fat would have been metabolized off, and so the problems that come with chronic overweight never would have been an issue. So now most of us live in an environment where the foods that make us fat are available everywhere all the time, and they're cheap and easy to get. Our natural instincts to eat as much of these foods as we can while they're available don't serve us anymore. In most of us, in most of our body, in most of us modern humans, our bodies and brains want us to be fat because fatness has been programmed into us, so to speak. So trying to function against our natural biological programming is difficult. It can be achieved, but it takes effort and practice, the right, correct information, and the right tools. So, what do? Our first step is to accept that our cravings and our preferences for junk food are kind of hardwired into us and may never completely go away. Our second step is to believe that we can retrain our thought processes to respond in a more appropriate way to food triggers. You know, if you let the tantruming toddler convince you that you'll never be able to stop craving eating carbs, because every time you stop eating carbs, you have these uncomfortable reactions. So therefore, that must mean that stopping carbs is bad for you. Then of course you're never going to be able to stop. You know, you're going to remain in the mindset that, oh, it's just a matter of moderation. But we've already discovered how we're hardwired. Most of us, the vast majority of us, are hardwired against moderation. It's not a natural instinct to moderate, especially with the consumption of carbohydrates. So that's just going to make things harder. You have to believe that it can be done. And it can be done. I know it can be done because I've done it, and I know lots of people who've done it, and I know people who teach how it's done. Okay? So believe it. It can happen. The third step is to understand that this is going to be an uncomfortable process, sometimes intensely uncomfortable. There's no way around that. But it's also just as important to understand that it is the discomfort itself that is going to drive your behavioral change. Human beings are adapted to living in dangerous and uncomfortable environments, and nowadays we live in hyper-safe environments. So if you lived in an uncomfortable environment all your life, you would of course say, yeah, well, it's just discomfort. I can deal with just discomfort. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's just uncomfortable. I have to sleep on the bare ground. Oh, well, I have to sleep on the bare ground. I have to sleep. You know, stuff like that. I have to walk on, sticks and stones because I don't have shoes because I'm a primitive human being. Well, my bottoms of my feet will adapt to that. You can adapt to the discomfort, but you can't adapt to it if you don't commit to going through it. Okay? Our instincts are wired to keep everything the same. Anything that's different is dangerous, and everything that's the same is safe. Our primitive brains want to go back to old habits just as soon as anything becomes difficult or uncomfortable. And just like the tantruming toddler, they will use any weapon that they can get to convince us to give up our new behavior and give them access to what they perceive as safe. And this discomfort can manifest as anything from general restlessness to full-fledged panic attacks to difficulty concentrating to intrusive and obsessive thoughts. And now that sounds scary, but the good news is that the more often you do it and the more you can tolerate, the faster it'll go away and the sooner it'll be over. So step 4 is to commit to the discomfort and process your discomfort. I recommend talking out loud or writing it down. Journaling, find a friend who's willing to listen and cheer you on, make videos on your phone, post on a Facebook page, or, post your frustrations in a rant in the comments below this video. The important thing is that you get your frustrations out of the inside of your head into a place where you can either see or hear them. This opens up more parts of your brain to help you process the frustration and emotion, and it actually helps you be okay with feeling it, with feeling the frustration, because that's what you have to do. You have to feel the frustration and not be fooled by your primitive brain to feeling like you have to act on it. I'm so frustrated, and your primitive brain will try to fool you into thinking you're going to feel this frustrated for the rest of your life until you give me that chocolate or that pie or those potato chips or whatever. And it's just not so. Getting it outside of you where you can see or hear it is going to help you remind yourself why you want to do this. Okay? Because the truth is, the discomfort of changing your behavior, especially if you're metabolically challenged or you have illnesses that you're trying to address, is going to be a lot less in the long run than the discomfort and inconvenience of not changing. So we're going to talk about this more in upcoming videos. But, just commit to feeling the discomfort. Commit to finding a way to process it. Commit to getting in community. And that is going to take you a long, long way towards being able to make the behavior changes that you want to make to improve your general health and improve the quality of your life. That's what did it for me. Questions, comments, hit me below, email me, and I will talk to you again soon, precious friends. Peace, love, and meat. Bye.